Oh my stuff! Hello? Hello? Oh! Hi, cuties! It has been eons since I seen you guys. I'm so glad the connection connected. I have a special treat for us today. A story time! Now, this is a long story, so it's going to be split into two parts. The first semester and her sister, the second. So, for the first semester, let's introduce the cast members. We have me and Kakao. We have Bennett. We have Butterfly. I'm always on trail. Clap it up for Butterfly. We have Mrs.Chris. Clap for Crit. Ooh. And then, last but not least, for the main cast, we have Billy Goat. Clap. No claps for Billy Goat either? I suppose. So, in order to set the scene, we need to travel all the way back to first semester. From what I can remember, in first semester, how we knew about the field trip is there are these programs. We had the one that's the most important to this story, BSAP. And in BSAP, it was for students of color and get opportunities to see Black excellence. So for this particular field trip, we all were put into a meeting, and long story short, we wanted to go on the field trip. How everything was supposed to go was it was supposed to be me, Butterfly, and Bennett rooming together, and Billy Goat, Mrs.Chris, and a side character who we'll name Destiny. We figured this would work because me and Butterfly were together, and Bennett is my best friend. And for Billy and Mrs.Chris and Destiny, they were all pretty close friends as well. So, first semester is the build-up of everything. So this is where we're going to get into dynamics. This is where we're going to get into how people move. This is how we're going to get into everything that makes the story the story. Second semester is the meat of everything. Wow. That's where stuff really goes awry. How our group dynamic was pretty simple when it comes to the main cast of this story. Billy, Mrs.Chris, me, and Bennett. The core four. How our group dynamic was, pretty much to put it simply, is Billy was the more quiet one, kind of reserved. When she did speak, it packed a punch. And sometimes it would actually pack a punch. She liked to hit. Bennett was our jokester. He likes to joke around. He was the light of the group. I would say I was the heart of the group, the matriarch of the group. Mrs.Chris was fairly new to our group. She was a new friend, at least to me. I invited her in because I will admit we were similar in some ways. Keyword, were similar in some ways. She was, I'd say, the wild card of the group. She could fit in any box, but there would be certain times where we all would joke around, pretend to be mean to each other, so to say. And in these moments when things got, I'd say, a little tense, there would be this thing that she would do. For example, I remember one time we were play fighting. We would do these things called choke buys. We would make up this thing in our school. It was really mostly our grade and the people that were closest to us, but almost everyone knew about it. It would be these made up gangs or clans. We were the Badianas on Badiana set. We were the Badianas on Badiana set. We had the crates. Crate. We had the AIs. It was kind of like Mean Girls, but all inclusive. And the choke buys come in. It pretty much was a way of getting someone's attention. You would quickly boom, and they're like, oops. But on this particular day, I remember we were doing a whole bunch of choke buys, and we ended up going to Mrs.Chris. And it goes into this big play fight, and everyone's laughing and whatnot. And I remember Billy Goat and Mrs.Chris started talking to each other, and they started to burn each other. You know how friends do sometimes. Oh, you stink. I swear. Or, oh, your hair look a mess. That's what they were doing. And there would be this thing that she would do. When we would do that, she would say things like, okay, but you're gay. Or, you're gay, you know? She would use it somewhat as an attack, or an I got you. On this particular time, she did it to Bennett. She was like, okay, but you're gay. We were all pretty confused because a common thing with her is, oh, I love the gays. I love the gays. I hang out with the gays. Literally, my sisters are gay, so it's fine. That whole charade. So, with that, these are one of the things that will start to build up, especially when we get into second semester. She would do things like this, but always, we never really talked about it because she would follow it up with helping us in certain ways, like coming with me to go visit Butterfly and things of that nature. Speaking of Butterfly, Butterfly was kind of the oddball of the group since he was never always around. He was only around if I was. And when he was around, things got weird. She would try and make things, I'd say, uncomfortable. Always talking very harshly to him. For example, if he was sitting with us, she would give him mean glares and whatnot. I didn't write it off as something inherently weird because I figured that it was a joke. Because sometimes Bennett and Billy would do it. But the difference with them, I feel, looking back on everything, is Billy does that mostly with everyone. And Bennett, fun fact, we all went to the same elementary. Me, Butterfly, and Bennett. So I felt it was normal for Bennett to do it, given he actually knows Butterfly. But guys, there is this one moment that I will never forget, and this will play in to second semester. He was sitting with us at lunch, and she came around. Mind you, I'll probably do a story time on this later, with his permission.
It's not happening.
We had our ups and downs. We broke up before, and we had just gotten back together. And this was at the height of our relationship after that. Not only would she make jokes about that, on this particular day, she had came to hang out with us and didn't acknowledge any of us. Not me, not Billy, not Bennett, but only one person, Butterfly. But what she came to him about was rather weird. It was about me, but to add on to that, it was about my smell. She would do this thing also where she would attack my weight. No shade, because I come from this too. She's more on the plus side. I used to be plus sized, and this is something that we talked about before, and how it was something that made me really uncomfortable. And for a while, I was very uncomfortable about my body. She would attack that. She would call me fat, obese, things of that nature.
I'd be glad when somebody get that hoe and drag that bitch and beat the fuck out of her.
Obviously, I'm not. Hold on. Obviously, I'm not. So, she would comment on my weight, which is something that I was uncomfortable about, but I didn't say anything because I considered her a friend. But not only would she comment about my weight, she would call me stinky. I brushed it off because I would always bounce back, because you're not about to dog me. But this particular day, she didn't acknowledge any of us, and she immediately called me stinky to my boyfriend. She goes up to Butterfly and she's all like, let me channel my inner Miss Chris.
Oh, now that's how you clear a bitch.
I bet he stink, huh? Yeah, I bet that stink. Talk about down there. Because he was sitting a stool below me. Now, this was confusing to all of us. Why are you talking about my smell to my boyfriend? And why didn't you tell me this privately? First of all, I don't stink. You will never catch me coming to school musty, especially down there in my sacred garden. So for you to say that to the person I'm with and not to me, and so publicly, like it's something normal, is alarming. But we talked about it. We asked her, why would you do that? And it didn't go any further than that. Now, another thing that she would do is comment about something with Billy Goat. I'm not gonna go too deep into it, but Billy Goat has always, from how long we've been friends, has always struggled being cheery, if you can catch my drift. Mental health. And this is something that Miss Chris would love to talk about in those roast sessions, as in I Got You. She would love to talk about her mental health in order to shut Billy up, which is another thing that'll play in to second semester. So, now that we have the build-up out of the way, things get a little rocky with me and Butterfly. Me and Butterfly break up when it is time for winter break, and we now go into technically second semester. But for the sake of this video, this is still first semester to keep the continuity going. And I'm not doing my best. I'm still very shaken up by everything. And Miss Chris is the one I go to the most. Miss Chris and I would talk about an array of things. We talk about her problems with boys, how boys would try and make her feel bad about her weight, which is something that I would never accept. So even I would go talk to those boys, or offer to go talk to those boys and ask them why they would do such a thing. And we would talk about my situation, talk about things that pertained to me and Butterfly.
butterfly and things of the sort. So over this time, I'd say a few months, about 3, we were really, really strong. Now, on a side note, in my old school, I was the head of dance. So whenever there was an assembly and they needed to dance, I was your go-to gal, me and the other dancers. The reason I bring this up is because we had a big performance coming up, along with the field trip. Leading up to the field trip and to the performance, more so the performance in the field trip, things were rocky. We had to reschedule everything, given me and Butterfly were not together at that time. How are we gonna room together? That wouldn't have made sense. And it would have been awkward. So we tried to sweep that under the rug until we could get things settled. And our dear friend Mrs.Chris fought it funny to poke at the wound. Here's another thing that leads up to second semester. When we would do our typical burns and whatnot, she would always bring up the fact that me and Butterfly aren't together. She would say things such as, "Shut up! That's why Butterfly left you. That's why Butterfly don't want you no more. That's why Butterfly this. That's why Butterfly that." Butterfly didn't even like you. Butterfly was probably just pretending. Now, the reason why this was so odd, as you could probably guess if you have a heart, this just happened. It was arguably one of the hottest topics of the school and hottest topics of my life. So, obviously, it would be a sore spot. You'll notice with Miss Chris, she has a thing for nagging at sore spots. There's one particular event with him, we'll say, was leading up to his birthday. His birthday is near a certain holiday. Those who are smart can guess. And I decided to do a 2-in-1 gift. I give you a gift for the holiday, and I give you a gift for your birthday. I didn't want to see him, as we had been talking on and off, trying to see the truth of what happened. Hopefully I can tell you guys that story.
It's not happening.
And him trying to meet somewhere in the middle. I asked Miss Chris and Bennett to deliver his gift. Long story short, the gift makes its way back to me for reasons I cannot disclose at the moment.
Well, sorta, kinda.
But I was told that it made Miss Chris really upset, which is something that really, actually, to give her a plus, I really liked. She was very passionate about the situation and even almost cried. I'm now starting to realize, though, that may have been for different reasons. I find out that the gift was not received because of some issues. And this would play into the story because fast forward a couple of weeks into this semester, second semester, technically, we're getting ready for the concert. And there's something that I needed to be done. This whole semester, it had been this big thing of, what is KIZZ gonna say next to Butterfly? Oh my God, is Butterfly gonna respond? Butterfly kiss, Butterfly kiss, Butterfly kiss. She was not having it. There would be things that would happen, and she would just try and prove her point that we were not getting back together. I don't want to make this story predominantly about what happened with me and Butterfly, but it intersects. I say this because there was this big moment where I came to her and I told her, I've been practicing over the 3-day break. There is so much I want to tell him, and there's so much I want to get off my chest and I really, really need to do this. This is really important to me. Can you come with me to do this? I was sure of this. And I asked her if everything I was saying would make sense to tell him. I was met with, oh, you're still talking about this one again. You just don't talk to him. Don't do that. Like, no, and I'm not helping you. Stuff like that. Which I felt odd because I'd always help her with her problems. You know, if she wanted to talk to her crush, I would set that up. I would get information from old people I used to talk to who were close with him. No questions asked. Nothing of the sort. Even if I didn't want to do it. Not saying that she was obligated to, but I found it odd that something as important to me was so insignificant to her when she wants me to do pretty much the same things. So after we get into an argument about it, she comes to KIZZ and says that I should tell him at the end of the week. I tell her, how about this? I'll try and pull him aside during the passing period and tell him I need to talk to him at lunch. If it doesn't work or he doesn't come, I'll do it at the end of the week. I didn't end up doing it because her voice kept playing in my head. Oh, you're still talking about this one again. You just don't talk to him. Don't do that. Like, no. And another break happened. And in this, I went home and I was very furious. I was very mad at her because she knew this was important to me. She knew how all of this was important to me. And for some reason, there was an odd switch up. She just didn't want me to deal with him. She would much rather we talk about her or talk about others in a bad way. I cried. I went to my other best friend at the time, we'll name her KIZZ, and I wailed to her. I told her, I don't understand why Mrs.Chris would do this. She knows that this is important to me, and she has the nerve to tell me she doesn't want me to do it because we have a field trip coming up, and we have the performance coming up, and we have just so much else to do. Quit worrying about him. Mind you, she can worry about her ex from years ago who is toxic. But I'm in the wrong, and I'm delusional, because I remember she called me delusional for thinking we were anything real or anything of the sort. She called me delusional for this, y'all. I'm delusional about something that I know is a genuine relationship, and I'll probably talk about this later. But you're not for still being in love with someone who treated you badly, who only liked you because it was convenient at the time, and who you will not ever see again. So I cried. I cried to KIZZ, and KIZZ told me it's probably best you don't say anything to her about it anymore. She's not good for you. This is where the distrust starts. Things get bad, y'all. More stuff happening with Butterfly. Good news sometimes. And I'd want to tell her, and I'd want to tell the group, but because of her and how the group was, I didn't. But she would always want me to. I told her, why would I tell you? You called me delusional. And she said, well, you are delusional.
Oh!
I digress. I said, how am I delusional for wanting to fix things with the person that I love? We end up arguing about that, and she tells me, if we're friends, then you should just tell me. I end up telling her, I'm not going to be able to tell you anything if, when I do tell you, you write it off as delusion, when there's evidence that we still love each other. I can't believe it either, because we're gonna deal with that in the second part. I like to apologize if this part was all over the place. A lot of stuff happens in this part, and first semester was pretty normal. This was just a build up so you can understand everyone's character. So, I apologize for the spottiness, but to wind everything up, here is our summary list. We have Miss Chris. In summary, Miss Chris is the type of person to make sly remarks, to make backhanded comments, to contradict herself, and anytime delusional. Wow. Bennett is neutral in the situation, very fun, very lively. Billy Goat, she is the more quiet and reserved one of the group. And Butterfly, lover, question mark, to be continued, XOXO. Ultimate summary. Pretty much during the first semester and semi of second semester, small things such as but you're gay. Shut up, he wouldn't like you, you're gay. I love the gays. Remarks like that would slowly build up leading up to the field trip. Venting to Miss Chris would be ineffective as we go closer to the field trip, as for some reason, which she would not disclose, she believes I should end it. But yeah, that is it for now. Like I said, I'm sorry, given this is my first time ever being on the camera. It is a little different. I'm usually just reading drawings, which is something you have to look out for. You haven't let that go to waste. But expect to see me a lot more. I'd say 2 to 3 times a week. At worst, expect 3. Definitely expect the videos and the story times to be more tightly knit. I'm sorry that I was all over the place. It's my first time doing this. It's my first time. Stop. But I think that's it. I'll see you all out in the cosmos. I love you, I adore you, and I applaud you for sticking around as long as you did. And our next Intercom talk will be soon. Bye, cuties.